I would like to call to order our city management recruitment search interviews. It is Monday, June 25th, and it is 8:52 a.m. Call the roll, please.
Mayor James.
Here.
Vice Mayor Harris.
Here.
Commissioner Brandenburg.
Here.
Commissioner Salvino.
Here.
City Attorney Ansbro.
Here.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners.
Morning,
Today
Renee.
we're here to interview candidates for the City Manager search. I'm Renee Norlock with Norlock & Associates. And we have 5 candidates today that we'll be interviewing. You have a booklet that was placed on your desk there for today's process. It has a schedule in the front of it. So I'm briefly going to go over that schedule. We have 3 interviews scheduled this morning, the first one starting at 9 a.m. and then 2 this afternoon, with an appointed time at the end of the day around 3:45 to do a debriefing where we'll discuss candidates and discuss next steps in the process. There is a break for lunch. Lunch will be brought in for you today, right over in the conference room next door here. Since our last meeting, there were 2 candidates that were added to our slate, and they both are interviewing today. They are part of the 5 that we're interviewing. We had a 6th candidate who actually pulled out of the process, was given a promotion where they were, and therefore chose to withdraw from the process. That happened last week. We've given you a set of questions, and it's very important that we follow the order of those questions and that we get all of those questions asked to each of the candidates. You will probably have follow-up questions or even have questions where you're asking for a clarification on an answer that a candidate gives you, and those are encouraged. Follow-up questions and clarification questions are encouraged. It's important that the list of questions that you have, that we ask at least all of those to candidates. Quite a list, but we'll get a rhythm going and we'll be able to accomplish that in the time frame set aside. We've appointed a 1-hour time slot for each interview with a little give and take on the end of it. If I see or you see that we're going a little beyond that and we need to get back on track, it's okay to prompt a candidate and remind them to be timely in their responses. I do need to remind you there are certain questions that you cannot ask candidates, and those I'm going to list several things here, but I will be in the room if you have a question. I'll be here, and of course the city attorney's here, Mr. Ansbro, to guide and direct us as we go forward. But any questions related to age, race, ethnicity, color, national origin, religion, marital status, gender identity, sex, including pregnancy, childbirth, and related medical conditions, disabilities, genetic information, medical conditions, on and on. The list is very comprehensive, so those are questions that you cannot ask candidates. It's not appropriate to do that. It's illegal to do that. So we'll be sure to stay away from those. I want to remind you that we are in a process here. This is not the end of it. This is a process. This is you seeing candidates for the first time, asking them a good comprehensive set of questions and figuring out what they bring to the table and whether you think it's a match for you as a city. Next steps could include a lot of things. We could bring the top 1 or 2 candidates back to have additional interviews with you, either in a group or one-on-one if you like, to even meet with your department directors in a question and answer session if that's something. And these are just things we'll talk about as we go forward. Meet with the community. There's several more processes. We still have to do background checks. We still have to do reference checks. But we need to know who you like in this group. We need to know, who you think should move forward that you want to consider further. I'll mention to be sure to turn off any kind of alarms, just so they're not distracting to you or others. And also refrain from talking to one another about candidates until the end of the day at the appointed time where we have a set time for debriefing. In your booklet that you received today, there are resumes of all the candidates. And I don't have a book here in front of me, but behind each tab is for each candidate. If you'll go to any tab in your book and go to the last page in that section, and that should be a a rating sheet. I want you to take a look at that real quick.
Yeah.
It's the last page in each section for each candidate. Do you see that form?
It's a brown page, like this. Yeah.
It's a rating sheet. I want you to look at that and be mindful of that today as candidates are interviewing, because it reminds you to look at some of their soft skills, like did they prepare for the position, for the interview? Do they have good interpersonal skills, communication skills? Do you see them as a fit for this organization? That sheet right there should really guide your assessment of candidates as you interview them. And at the bottom of it, there's two areas. One is their strengths as a candidate, and one is areas of concern. Do you see those at the bottom of that sheet, of that rating sheet? Okay. Those are areas to make notes, and be mindful that the notes you make are public records. But still use that area to make notes about that particular candidate. So at the end of the day, when we begin to talk about that candidate, you can refer back to that area, and we will focus on what their strengths are and what your areas of concern are for them as a candidate, okay? So that sheet's very important. Now I'm going to go to another sheet that's going to be very helpful to us. It's in the very back of the book. I think it might have a tab. If it doesn't, it's the very last page of the book. And I'm going to explain this, this ranking sheet, and I'll probably have to explain it twice, and that's okay. I say that because I always have to explain it twice, and that's okay, all right? So that ranking sheet, Tom, can I borrow your book just a minute?
I understand it.
That's where our first candidate's name is going to go. Okay? Our first candidate, Mr. Donnelly's name is on that box. After Mr. Donnelly picks, we have our second candidate. You're going to move over to the next column, going down. And you're going to rank who's your top pick, and put it on the top line. And who's your second pick, and put it on the second line. After the third candidate, you're going to go over to the third column. And going down, you're going to rank who you think is 1, 2, and 3. And then by the end of the day, over here in the fifth column, you will have your forced ranking of your top picks. Now, you're not obligated to live by whatever that ranking is at the end of the day. You can change your mind. It's just a way for you to gauge candidates against the rest of the candidates as you go. There's nothing scientific about it. There's no weighted measures to it. It's just a simple forced ranking throughout the day. And what that helps us to at the end of the day is if we find that we all have 2 or 3 candidates that are all in the bottom 3, you know, rank number 4, 5, and 6, 3, 4, and 5, we can agree to not discuss those candidates further. If they're everybody's lower picks,
I have a question about it. No, but I have a question about it. So when we look at it afterwards, we're only going to be looking at 2 through 4, right? Not 1 through 5. Because you're telling us to put someone's name, regardless of who it is, in this first box that's ranking number 1, and it's only them that they're going against.
So the only reason you're putting them in there is because they're first. That's the only reason you're
That's what I'm saying. So we're not taking that into consideration. We're only taking into consideration 2 through 4.
No. As you move over here to the second column, you will compare Mr. Donnelly to this,
No, I understand that.
and then you will put whoever's top here.
Okay, I get what you're saying. I know I get what you're saying, but it just so we're not looking at it in totality. Like this is my first rank all the way over. This is my second rank.
No.
Okay,
You know, your rank changes as you go from this column
got it.
to this column, to this column, to this column, and then here's where you end up at the end of the day.
Okay,
After all 5 candidates, I will touch base with you in between the interviews just to make sure.
okay.
Questions on that ranking sheet? It will be helpful at the end of the day. You think I'll have to help. Okay. So our schedule is in the front of the book.
You put the names in, right?
Mr. Donnelly is our first candidate.
So we write his name.
So Mayor, if you'll ask the first question. Well, cheat sheet up here of all of those areas so that the candidate doesn't have to remember all of that.
Yep, but
Okay?
Renee,
So we have to follow this
Yes.
paper that you made.
Yes, ma'am.
I thought we just
See,
discussed
that's
that.
what I don't understand. Why aren't I asking my own questions?
You're asking at the end of, when we finish those questions, when it comes time for any additional questions, the mayor's going to say, does anybody have
Okay.
additional questions?
You gave me the longest one, 1, 2, 3, 6 points that I don't really, I'm not touching on.
It's okay, you can just say, I'm gonna have this on the podium right here, and you can say, it's not about it being your question, it's just about asking them, describe your experience in these areas, and you just read that list and say there's a list of bullet points on the podium for you to refer to. They don't even have to remember them, they'll be right there. Okay?
Question? Why do we have to go in that order?
Thank you.
I'm sorry, why do you have to go in that order? Because if you go
I don't agree with this.
then
Tell
we'll
you right
get more
now.
questions.
Well, all I gotta do is mark.
You want me to check them off? Would you, if they're more comfortable at, would you just want me to check them off? If y'all want to skip around whatever questions, I'll ask number one,
That's
and
fine.
then
If she
Bill,
wants
you
to
ask
number
whatever.
4, I'll ask number 3 if you like.
I'm just saying, you ask whatever, I'll keep track of what we've asked.
That's fine.
And I'll check them
That's
off.
fine with me.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Okay, okay. I'll make sure, I promise you. He needs his book back. All right, that's soft. We're good, everyone's good?
Yes, ma'am.
Uh,
All right, I'm gonna bring in our first candidate, Mr. Donnelly.